Yo, what's up? This is Watering Hole Media. This is the Tap In crew.
What up, what up?
We are in Chicago for day 2 of the DNC, and if you did not know, this city is crazy in an amazingly beautiful way. Politics, infrastructure. It is the place where the Nation of Islam was formed. It is the place where the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, I think, had its strongest leadership outside of Oakland with Chairman Fred Hampton. A name that if you don't know, I want you to know. Many say this is the place where King's movement went national. When King got kicked out of Chicago, but Jesse Jackson stayed and created Rainbow Push. This is the place of the Obamas. I mean, this is a city, y'all, that just has so much rich history as it relates to labor movement, social movement, civil rights continuation, Black Power movement,
Free
even
Larry Hoover.
gangs.
Talk that talk.
I mean, when you start talking about outside of LA, Chicago is the home of the gang. So what we doing here?
What we doing here?
And the Harold Washington machine.
And one of the last real mayoral political machines that existed in the country. So there's so much rich history here, and all of this is the backdrop for Kamala Harris being nominated as the Democrats' nominee for President of the United States. Why do y'all think Chicago, why is it important that we're here? And in many cases, what does Chicago represent?
Chicago's a special place, as you said. I grew up in Milwaukee, born and raised, still live in Milwaukee. So Chicago is very close to me in proximity, but also, close to me in heart. I come here a lot, got family here, got a lot of friends here. Spend a lot of time, get to experience the best and the worst of Chicago. Yeah. We got food, we got entertainment, all this other stuff, like in addition to the serious topics you talked about. And so to be here in a moment like this where Kamala Harris is getting ready to be nominated as getting ready to become the party's nominee for President of the United States, I think is especially special given the context of the city that we're in and what this city has already given to the country.
Yeah. Let's be honest though, like food is a very important topic to talk about.
Oh, it's very important.
Let's not do that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Don't downplay the food, my brother.
Oh, I'm not.
Okay, cool. That was a wild
Hey,
statement.
yeah, well, it was wild, and I apologize. Wrong is wrong.
Chicago,
Wrong is wrong.
But we have to
Chicago
also
is
think about
dive to
it.
Michelin. I mean,
Bro, like Chicago is also the home of house music, right? It's
Man.
like culturally has changed the world multiple times over, right? We got both Lupe Fiasco,
The acceptable version of Kanye.
Twista.
wow.
Acceptable version.
That's another show.
Listen, man. To be Bobby then, you gotta be Bobby now. Like, you just gotta love the man, okay? But nah, Chicago on a cultural level, man,
Yeah.
has always been lit.
100%.
It's changed the course of conversations many
Created
times over.
conversations.
Type shit.
That's right.
Type shit.
That's right. And some real issues, Laquan, the murder of Laquan, and that caused national news quite recently. Like, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Sonia Massey, like not too far from where we're sitting, right?
Yep.
And so, even when you go back to, you mentioned, Dr. King and the movement, I remember Dr. King used to tell people the scariest march that he was ever in was not the Mississippi March. It was not the March Against Fear. It was the march right here in Chicago. And so, just the role that this city has played, the role that, as you said, Jesse Jackson has played in this city and nationally, and then to see him honored at this convention just last night in this city, that's a sight to see.
It's also prophetic in that if anybody thinks Kamala Harris is just going to get elected because there's energy, it's not. This is one of those cities where you can't play. Like, as an activist, as a young activist, somebody used to be like, you got to come to Chicago. I'd be like, no. Because if you aren't being guided through Chicago by the right guide, you're going to get hurt. And and whether you
Get your bike stolen.
Churches, forget it. Man, listen, take that bike. Come on, man. Take that bike, D.
Oh, man.
Come
on, man.
It's family business.
Oh, man.
R.I.P. man. R.I.P.
That was harsh. Flag on
My bad.
I tried to say the good and the bad of Chicago. I tried to leave it there. Right. You want to go into detail, the
Locked
pretty
up.
details.
Stop police
Chicago.
report. No, I'm just saying.
Did I file a police report? Come on, man.
But no,
I gotta do an
no.
insurance claim, so
But I think
forthcoming.
What's real is there are parts of the country that is not going to vote for Kamala because there's a commercial on TV.
Right.
And there's money that needs to be distributed to folks on the ground.
Right.
Chicago just is always that city that reminds me, if you don't go block to block,
Right.
you don't win. If
Yeah.
you don't understand block to block, then you can't function.
Right.
And I think it's prophetic that this is the city where she's going to receive the nomination, because that DNA is going to have to exist in the rest of the campaign
Sure.
in order for her to win.
Sure.
And I think it's also telling because, you know, I don't think anybody's doubting which way Illinois is going to go, right? But Chicago's special because of, you know, like you talked about, you're from Wisconsin, from Milwaukee,
Yeah.
right? The proximity to places like Wisconsin, places like Michigan, places like Pennsylvania even, right? That message that I think they were trying to send around the importance of the Midwest, the Blue Wall, whatever you want to call it.
And it's just a method. I mean, you're going to have to go to the street.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that in North Carolina, in Georgia, in
Philly.
Vegas, so that's why I say what this city represents
Yeah.
is the energy that this campaign is going to need to take into every one of these battleground states
Yeah.
in order to win.
And some of that energy's got to be about black men, right?
A lot of it.
A lot of it, you know, and that's still an area, you know, where it's up in the air, like which side we gonna fall on and all that and what we feeling. And I think the messages that come out of this convention, right, these nights, you're seeing these pictures and everything, the messages to what extent are brothers gonna watch, you know, last night in Jesse or some of the other speeches or what happens tonight with the Obamas, to what extent are we gonna be watching and hearing stuff that resonates with us? You know, that's gonna be something that we gotta keep an eye on.
I want to see more of this in the streets. Like
Yeah.
the next political campaign, whatever, tap in with me on some cultural architecture shit. Let's do a DNC in the hood. Like this is how many people in the South Side are actually going to be here? How many people are actually like who care to turn on CNN? You know what I'm saying? Like to actually watch the conversations.
Right.
If it doesn't feel like material to them.
That's right.
And I often have this conversation where folks are like, well, it's not just about one particular group of people, but I'm like, how often have we ever seen a political campaign or a political fiasco like a DNC
All right.
in the hood for real, right? So I want to see that shit translated really on the block.
And I don't know if we need that. I just think we just need the right voices talking to the right people about the right stuff. Like this
Right.
is pomp and circumstance. Like
Right.
so much of this is about a democratic infrastructure process. Like the vast majority of this is about who are the delegates that have been
Sure,
selected
just
from their
see
state
people
to be
raise
on
up
the
your
floor,
signs.
to vote on things
Right.
that are determining the future of the party. The rest of it is a commercial
Yeah.
for potential voters.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
think we got to take the messaging part and give it to youngins, give it to DJs, give it to party promoters, give it to gang members, give it to whoever has credibility in the communities that they are, because those are the people, the hyper local leaders
Yeah.
are the ones that are going to be able to have the conversations
Right.
that a DNC production is never going to.
I'm gonna push back on you, OG, because like, if Kamala or Obama when he ran, which he tried to do, was like literally in the hood, like door knocking, and not just for the photo op. You know what I'm saying? Not just going to the barber shop or going to the liquor, like really building from the ground up with. Now, I'm not saying that people who do the like phone banking and like setting up political office. I'm not downplaying what they've done, but there is something to be said when you have some of this energy on the block. Like we do block parties. Like people want to go to a festival, right? So when you turn this outward, there's a different sort of connotation that is connected for those potential voters that you're talking about.
But we're not disagreeing. Like my thing is, you don't win our folks with pomp and circumstance.
Sure.
You win our folks with
Reality.
authenticity.
With actual connection.
Reality.
So I agree with
Unity
you.
building,
I think
yes, sir.
Where are the moments for folks to plug in? But we also know sometimes if it's the guy I know that says I ride with Kamala,
Sure.
like the dude I trust,
Sure.
like my guy's like, yo, I F with her, man. Like, well, why OG or why cuz or why whatever.
Right.
Like when they say that, that is Kamala being
Right.
in.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that
I
we
feel that. I appreciate you.
remove the event opportunities, because I think parachuting in is great. But if you don't have those substantive relationships already built, folks don't want to hear it. Because if I don't know anybody who trusts her, I'm not showing up at the event.
Right.
In many cases. So I think that there's a balance of what
like
we're
a
both
both
saying.
and for sure.
I'm just so tired of giving our people productions without substance.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
I fully
Well,
agree.
let's talk on the substance then. You know, like what are y'all hearing about the substance, and what do y'all think? How has the Obama experience, right? Because we went through the Obama years, pros and cons, Obamacare, right? Healthcare, like people, some real stuff that people benefit from. But I think we all know that there were some critiques, right? Like some folks feeling like, oh, we didn't really get as much out of a black president and whatever. So how do y'all think the Obama years and the Obama experiences are going to impact this energy and the expectations around what comes out of a Harris presidency?
I think there's going to be certainly a bigger demand for action for that content, right? Like, granted, like we still, we got Obamacare, great, and there was a lot that should have happened. We had some folks in Congress and the U.S. Senate that did not abide and set us back farther. Like we could have had a public option on Obamacare, but Joe Lieberman was the vote against that, held out. That's why it didn't happen. Whether it was, the American Jobs Act, there was so much like that we wanted because there was so much that we expected because we developed a familiarity with Obama and we felt close to him. We felt like we knew him, and he felt like he was our president. So we expected.
Did we give him a pass?
But I think both things happened.
I'm not saying we were. I'm just saying that's a question.
But I think both things happened. I do truly think that because we felt this real solid connection with him that automatically he should have knew what was up and fixed all our problems. And when you mention giving a pass, I think there are ways to hold people accountable. You can chant, protest, and march, or you could be a part of the process to get things done, like involving yourself in the act of governing. I tell people all the time that get mad about something not happening after an election. It's like, okay, well, voting is step one.
Right.
Again, show up afterwards. Like I've had a lot of people. When I served in office, who would be like, well, why isn't this happening? And I'm like, all right, this is an opportunity for me to bring you along, to show you exactly what it is like in a day, to show you how the sausage gets made, so to say. And I wish that more people, as much as we talk about voting and elections and encourage voter education, I wish there was governing education that went along with that as well, because that would help us out tremendously. We would know, where we air our grievances, also how we help chart the path and sort of be partners in governing.
Don't get it twisted.
we need a
sometimes
culture.
niggas need to shut some shit
We need a
down.
culture of civic participation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So being in Chicago is perfect for so many reasons. Chicago is very centrally located in the country. Midway Airport, named that for a reason. And I think about how many people came here, settled here, lived here, made a home, made a life. Some folks made a fortune. Some people, it didn't turn out so well. But with that being the case, even looking at a room like this, and Milwaukee was home to the RNC a few weeks ago, and it looks totally different. I wasn't inside the doors, but I live in the city, and I saw folks coming outside the door, like what they're, what they brought to the table, what they brought to the city. And here, it feels as if there is, intentionality, at least on behalf of the Harris Walz ticket, party organizers. And this is not the case writ large. Understand that. But I can say for sure that there are folks in this room, you, Cliff, specifically, committed to building that multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy, and it is happening. It's been a slow process, an embarrassingly slow process, but this country is changing, and I think the more people who step up to be a part of it, like the folks in this room who are going to do the work that it takes to elect Kamala Harris to become president, can show that as the best example of a multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy, and more importantly, society. Right? This has to go beyond politics. I think about school buildings, where, school districts in rural Wisconsin that are browning quickly. School districts in rural communities all across this country are browning quickly, and the American experience is changing more rapidly, I think, than a lot of people give it credit for or even understand
And it
how
feels
it's happening.
it feels a lot different in the RNC, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
I want us to acknowledge and celebrate the diversity of attendance.
Yep.
And push for a higher level of diversity of power. So
100%.
even the brother who's the head of LULAC, largest Latino political organization in the world, in America, talked about this is the first time they're endorsing
Yeah.
in 96 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And so even with that endorsement, he was like, yo, we're supporting, but we still need to see more Latino representation.
Yep.
We still need to see more Latino power. And what I'm excited about is our ability to have that duality, where we celebrate a broad tent, and while we in that broad tent, be like, hey,
Right.
we still need some more power. We
Yeah.
still need some more access. We still need some more opportunity.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the celebration is a farce.
Certainly can't just be happy being there in
Yeah.
the house, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the past you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obama's.
This is my first DNC, so I don't have like.
Mine too.
Look at
Believe
that.
it or not.
That's right, and so like don't have the in-person. You've been to about 10 of them.
You know
right?
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This home.
Bet
It's
you.
coming.
Gavel us in.
Right. So I don't have anything to compare it to, but I've watched a bunch.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels different, and it could just be from being here versus watching, right? But it feels different than a lot of the other
It
ones.
feels like Denver.
It feels like Denver.
Feels
Which
like
one was Denver?
Obama.
Denver was
That was
when
Obama.
Obama 08. Denver was unbelievably exciting.
Oh, yeah.
You knew something was happening that had never happened before.
Yeah.
And I think this feels a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
The parties
I
were
feel
better,
that.
concerts were better.
Feel that.
I'm saying for real, right?
Right.
I mean,
For sure.
So there is.
But also feel like we have that as a reference now.
Yes.
Of like when you talk about the political power, we talk about giving the pass.
Yeah.
Like folks are kind of fed up with that. Like let's just get excited because she's black. Like, and people are like, well, how do we organize? And unfortunately, a lot of people are saying they want to abstain from voting. So I feel like there's a counter movement to say like, nigga, please stay engaged in the process, but let's build a platform that they can endorse
Because
so that we
cultural
have
history
power.
is not enough.
It's not enough.
Not enough.
So that's super important. I
Because
appreciate
we've
that.
had that experience
Yeah.
before.
Right.
Like we've had an opportunity to make history
Right.
before.
Right.
Now it's time to make history,
Make history
but
and
like,
change
but like make
history.
history in terms of outcomes, historic outcomes, historic
Right.
deliverables.
So, question, because I'm hearing that there are Republicans that are going to be speaking tonight who are moving over to this conversation. What does that actually fucking mean? Like, are we saying that there's going to actually be like unilateral, bipartisan collaboration at the highest levels? Are we saying that there's going to be some level of how's that going to translate in how we move, right? With something so divisive as like a MAGA context with this.
But I think
progressive
there are
context. I'm just-
Republicans that are trying to say, look, MAGA is not the Republicans.
Yeah.
And moderates in particular that are like, listen, we might argue later, but I would rather her be in the White House
Yep.
than this crazy dude.
Got you.
Because I have heard Republicans say that he's a threat to real Republican values.
Got you.
And I think we're hearing moderates in particular that are going to be speaking tonight saying, one, I don't trust Donald Trump to be president of the United States.
Got you.
I think two, to your point, how do we get back to a time where bipartisan conversation,
Just
let
conversation.
alone
We just started the conversation,
lawmaking,
please.
just conversation
Yeah.
and decency,
Right.
is something that's ushered back into federal politics. I mean, do you feel the same way?
I do feel the same way. I think that people feel as if Donald Trump is a threat to the future of the Republican Party in general. It's a party of personality at this point. And the thing about how big tent the Democratic Party is, like even Obama couldn't get to that level of cultism, right? Like I don't know if cultism is a word, but we're gonna use it. Okay. It's cultish. Cultish.
Right.
A little cultish.
He was
Right.
definitely
Cultism.
He was
kinda
definitely
cult.
Jesus. He was
Obama
definitely
was
Jesus.
kinda culty,
I
bro.
feel you, but think about how people, Republicans, credible Republicans, have sacrificed their own political careers for him.
Sure.
And like people who have felt like they will do whatever he says. Obama never had that sort of control in
So
terms
Trump is on
of
some Jim
in terms
Jones.
of governing, in terms of even politics.
No, that's fair.
It's not like
Right.
Obama puts his hands in different congressional races like Donald Trump. These people are running to get Donald Trump's endorsement. Will bend over backwards. Will do whatever it takes
Got you.
to get his blessing, and that's just never been the effect. And nor do I think Obama wanted to have that effect on
Right.
the party.
Right. Got you.
I'm scarred a little bit because we had an experience. I lived
Truly.
in Selma. Yeah, right, in more ways than one. I lived in Selma.
Relax.
my bad, man. I saw it opening. I saw it opening, man.
Right,
I saw it opening. Like, you took my bite. yeah, I saw it opening. I had to.
Truly.
Give me back. Oh, but one of the things we used to see for 10 years living there is whenever we would have somebody running, you'd always get the whispers of, oh yeah, we think, and I'm gonna talk about it from a racial perspective, and it's not that simple in terms of like the Republicans or whatever, but I'm gonna use this framework. We'd always get whispers of, yeah, I think, a good white person would come to us and be like, I think you could get white support.
Yeah.
Right? There's more with you than you know, right? And they would never show up.
Yeah.
But they would say it because they know that, and Toni Morrison would talk about the white glaze, the get white gaze. They know that once you have that seed planted, that you might start to change up some stuff, change up some of your language, even change up some of your policies, right? And so my concern now, I'm glad to see the Republicans for Harris, and they had their Zoom call, and they're gonna be speaking here tonight, and that's good, right? The concern, though, is, if you start to then shift, it feels so good that we start to shift, we start to change the discussion around some of these policies. We start to change the discussion around price gouging or the $25,000 home assistance, saying, you know what, if I change it up a little bit, I might keep more of these people that we're so glad are now with us because of this democracy question. And so that's the concern. So I'm glad to see it happening. I think there's some good stuff that can come out of it. We just have to keep things in perspective and not change up the very things that have gotten us to this point.
And I think we got to put a pin in that because we're in day 2.
Yeah.
We got a lot more to cover.
A lot more to
We'll
go.
have a lot more conversations.
Yeah.
Water and Ho gonna be here for all of it.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
And so
Shout out to Ashley Allison and the
absolutely.
whole squad out here.
So that pin is important because it speaks to what everybody has said about the work that has to be done after this.
Yes, sir.
So y'all stay with us. We're gonna be checking out a whole lot more. You'll see a whole lot more. Watering Hole is a big, huge community of brilliant people, and Tap In is the best place in the watering hole. We're gonna see y'all
In a minute.